Hello, 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 hello. How are all of you today? This is Willie with From Save to Sane, and glad to have you for our podcast today. Really quick, I'm gonna give you the title of the podcast: "The Dangers of Believing in a God and or Deity," which is one and the same. But let me first start by first apologizing for today's podcast being an hour earlier than usual. I have some other events that I need to attend right after this event. As I've said to you guys, I have stepped up my work in this space. This is really all that I do right now, and for the foreseeable future or for the rest of my life. So this is what I'm doing full time. So uh, occasionally there may be events or things that I have to do that may collide or be on a collision course with our dates. But I'm going to try to be consistent with every other Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time, which is 4 o'clock Pacific time where I am now. But today I couldn't avoid having it earlier. So thank all of you who are here. Let me make sure if you're here, let me know that you're here. I see Neo. What's going on, Neo? Glad to have you. Yes, Neo said hit the like button. Please hit the like button. I posted a short to this channel a week or so ago, along with the video that we did a couple of weeks ago, and I've got more subscribers, so it increased the subscription. So I'm glad to hear that. Jay Chandler, what's going on? Glad to have you as well. So let me begin as I always do, and I'm adding a little more to this sort of intro. But I want to begin, as I always do, by thanking two important, very important people who make this podcast go and make it possible. One is Taisha Essick. And Taisha, I know you're out there somewhere taking care of business. Certainly support you and thank you for everything that you've done because you've been 100% supportive of me. Those of you who are not familiar with Taisha Essick, she has some great podcast videos out there. She do a great job with that. She talks about stuff in this space as well, but there's a whole an abundance of other things that she touches on and talk about. So if you get an opportunity, please follow Taisha out there. And then secondly, and most importantly, I want to thank my wife, Salima, who's always supportive. She's my number one fan, as she always says, and she's behind the scenes making sure the technology works right, all those kind of things, and make sure that I am on top of everything. And occasionally, I will run the topics by her just to make sure that I'm not going overboard. But so she's good at that. So certainly appreciate that. Before we get into today's discussion, I also want to publicize my book again, From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity and Why Christianity Has Been Detrimental to the African American Community. Willie O. Cartwright. You can get this off of Amazon, or you can send me an email. I think I had my email address on there the last time, but you can send me an email with information. I send you my Cash App, and we can do Cash App, and I can send you a signed copy of the book. So we have that going on. Just a little bit more about sort of some more housekeeping things. Over the past week, I've had two speaking engagements. I spoke to an organization here called Sunday Assembly about a week and a half ago here in the Las Vegas area. We had a discussion, or I gave about a 2-hour lecture on nuns, African American nuns, the importance of nuns, and secularism, and how it's important for us to gravitate toward secularism, why secularism is important, I should say, in this country, and how, and in factual information about the existence of secular societies and how well they function, how they are efficient, and they're not chaotic societies. And so I did a 2-hour presentation on that. And this past weekend, I gave a presentation on my graduate thesis at a philosophy conference in Greenville, South Carolina. So I've been extremely busy and very thankful for that, and fortunate that we had an opportunity to to do that. We have some other things that are working in the works that I will announce as we go further along, but I'm making a lot of contacts with a lot of different secular and humanist organizations out there that seem to be really interested in the work that I'm doing. So we will keep that going. Also, I am in the process of writing my fourth book, but this will be my second book on this particular topic. And so I expect that to be out sometime this summer or early fall. I'm looking for any one of you know any. I'm not well. I can find an editor, but I need a publisher. We're gonna try to get this one published and not self-published, and see what happens with that. So anybody knows a publisher who is willing to publish a book on secularism, a book about all of my writings and work that I did in grad school on secularism, absolutely send me a message and let me know. So hopefully that took care of all of that. So I want to get into what we're talking about today. I always talk about how I came up with the subject. So today is the dangers in believing in a deity or a God. And so this is really based on I try to make sure that the information that is given out here on this podcast is information that is first informative, allow you to learn something that maybe you didn't know before, but I also wanted to be practical. I want you to be able to take it and use it in your everyday life. And so we don't want to just come on here on this podcast and just sort of what would seem to believers or other people that we are sort of bashing religion, in particular Christianity and Islam. But there's a method to the madness, as people say. So this is not to bash religion. This is just to make notice, let everyone notice that there are non-believers out there. There are non-believers of color out there who are vocal. This is a growing community, especially with the younger people. And there are people who put in the work and put in the time that I'm going to start to make mention on this podcast so that you can follow those individuals as well. People like Dr. Anthony Penn, Dr. Christopher Cameron, Candace Gorman, Sakiva Hutchison, Jeremiah Camaro, and there are many others, but just to name a few. And what I'm going to do from now on is try to introduce you all in each podcast to some of their work, whether it be their own podcast or writings that they've done, books that they've done. I think I've done some of that. But I think it's important that we understand that this community is here to stay. We are a growing community. And absolutely, there are people out there who are not part of this religious structure that look like you and me. And those people span the spectrum from everything from I am beginning my journey and questioning what I had traditionally believed in my faith, all the way to those individuals who are open and out atheists and everything in between. Those individuals who practice a non-traditional form of religion or spirituality, they're somewhere in the middle. And so this podcast is for all of them. This podcast is also for those of you who reject the things that we're saying, who are opposed to the things that we're saying. I am always open to a healthy dialogue and a healthy discussion. And so today's podcast was sort of born out of that. I wanted just to talk about a few things as to, so why am I and why this space and this community that we have is opposed to organized religion in most cases. And there are different varieties and levels of opposition to religion. So let me just state my position before we sort of get into it. What I am opposed to is, first of all, I am not opposed to any individual having a religious or a spiritual position, right? I am not opposed to people worshiping the way that they want to worship. What I am opposed to, however, is those individuals who push their religion on either people from different religions or those of us who practice no religion at all. What I am opposed to are those individuals who work to create laws and normative situations to which all of us have to follow based on their religious belief, regardless of what their religious beliefs are. And then there are some more mundane things about organized religion that I am opposed to, like of this whole doomsday scenario that you hear anytime there's a plane crash or a natural disaster or some kind of weather phenomenon. I am opposed to the doomsday believers who go on social media and start talking about this is a sign of the end times and Jesus is on his way back now. I'm opposed to that kind of stuff. I'm opposed to forcing people to believe something because of fear. That is your issue. You are projecting that onto others. And so again, I am not opposed to the individual practicing their religion, their spirituality from an individual level. I think even to a point, it can be healthy, and it has been healthy for some people. And quite frankly, some people need something to believe in something that they believe is outside of them. And so I have no problems with that. But I do have a problem or issue with the things that I've said before. And so this podcast is going to be largely about those things in organized religion that are outside of the personal. Those things in organized religion that affect you and I, those of us who don't want to be a part of this thing. And so that is the reason why I've said that there are dangers in people believing in a God or a deity. I purposely didn't say there is dangers in organized religion, although there is. But then there's always this whole parsing of, I'm not part of religion. I'm a true believer of God, or I follow God and Jesus. And to me, that is also an issue as well, because it's really the same thing. Let me make this abundantly clear to people out there who try to parse these things out. If you follow Jesus Christ and you think that Jesus Christ, or you believe that Jesus Christ is your Savior and that Jesus Christ is part of the Trinity, you are a Christian, period. All of this, and Christianity is a religion. It is one of the Abrahamic religions. And so to say, well, I'm not religious, but I'm a believer in Jesus as my Savior, you are still part of religion. But just to be clear, I wanted to make sure that I said the dangers of believing in a God or a deity, at least a God, or at least the way that we currently define God and deity today. And I know there's differences. I'm not speaking about the people who maybe define God or deity as nature or as love or something like that. But of the 3,000 plus deities that we've created to be gods, like Jesus, like God, like Allah, and some of the others in some of these other religions. So that's where we are on that. What's going on, Jay? Glad to have you with us today. Again, guys, if you guys have any comments, please put them in the chat, and we will get those moved. We'll get those moved into part of the conversation. Have those as part of the conversation. If you have comments or questions. So thank you so much for that. Please do that. Let's get it going. So one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of, especially now that we're seeing, as I always talk about, this country becoming a soft theocracy. And so what we're seeing is us moving in a direction where the country is more and more being ruled by those who put their religion and their faith first, and they want all of us to do this. One good example is in Oklahoma, where I think the one of the superintendents of the school board wanted to make sure that there were Bibles in every class, right? Or in every class and every school. And I'm going to tie that to another issue. I don't know if those of you here that you're up to date on what's going on over here, but Louisiana was the first state to introduce a bill and pass that bill to have the 10 Commandments in every K through 12 school, or at least in most of the schools. Georgia, the state that I just left, just moved from, Louisiana actually passed the bill, and it is law from what I know. Those of you who are in Louisiana who may know more about this, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, because I don't want to be incorrect. But the information that I have says that this is a law that is in effect in Louisiana. And I know recently Georgia has introduced a bill to do the same thing, to have the 10 Commandments in every K through 12 school. So let me tell you why this is dangerous. For those of you who may not, who on here who really not clear about why it's dangerous, and then for those of you who are gonna listen to this later and maybe have an opposing view, who don't believe that this is dangerous. First of all, the way that it reads and the rationale behind it is that these people believe that the Ten Commandments, like the Constitution, like other historical documents, well, like historical documents, they believe that the Ten Commandments is a historical document that need to be in schools. So let's correct that first. The Ten Commandments is not a historical document. The Ten Commandments is a religious document, a Christian religious document. It is not a historical document. Secondly, it is an attempt to indoctrinate students into one particular religion. Thirdly, we have something in the Constitution, we have something in our bylaws that say there should be a separation of church and state. This is, if this was to pass, as it did in Louisiana, this is not an example of separation of church and state. And finally, if you do this for Christianity, then certainly you're going to have to do it for every other religion that's represented in all of these schools. And so by doing so, you certainly turn these schools into houses of worship, because in the Georgia bill, it said that the Ten Commandments would have to be posted in no less than 3 central locations in a school. So if you have, let's just be conservative and say you have 10 or 12 other religions represented in that school, you would have to have an example of a sacred document that they have within their religion. You would have to have that posted in a minimum of 3 spaces in the school. So now we're talking about upwards of 30 religious documents posted throughout the school, a minimum of varying religions. And this is just not a good idea, no matter how you slice it, no matter how you look at it. If you want your child indoctrinated into religion, then say that there's a place for that. It's called church or a mosque or a synagogue. If not, then enroll your child in a religious-based school. But public schools that all our tax money go to support, including those of us who are non-believers, including those of us who may worship differently, or those of us who are just apathetic to religion. This is not something that I think is a good idea. And Louisiana and Georgia as a whole are 2 school systems that would be better served investing time and money in the education, in educating our students. If you look at test scores and how these students perform, they certainly would be better served by, again, investing resources into properly educating our students, our kids, as opposed to hanging up religious doctrine within the school. And so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So I guess A on the list of why, and this is all because of one's or a collective community's religious belief in their God or their deity, and 2, the belief that their religious beliefs is right and everyone else is wrong. And so they try to impose their beliefs on all of us by saying that this is better for the community, this is better for all of us. That in itself is a misnomer. I am old enough, I'm old enough to remember when we did have prayer in school and those type things, and the schools were no better. I am versed well enough in history to know that when 90+% of all of us Americans were Christians, and we had prayer in the schools and we had Bible in schools and those things in the school, I understand that we had Jim Crow, slavery, we had segregation, bigotry, racism. So having those things in the school, putting an emphasis on religion, in this case Christianity, did nothing to make the environment a better environment for any of us, especially those of us who was not part of the status quo. And so this is a misnomer. This is an attempt, again, to push us into more of a theocracy, I mean, we're well past us being a soft theocracy, but this is an attempt to push us more into a theocracy, which at the end of the day is really about control and is about minimizing the viability of everyone who is not a white heterosexual male. That's really what this ends up being at the end of the day. And so what they figured out, they being white supremacists, because all this stuff goes hand in hand. And I hate to get into the whole political side of it, so I'll keep it short with that part of it. But it is connected. And so what those white supremacists have learned over the decades and centuries is that it is you can use the tool of westernized Christianity to control people, including some African Americans. Because believe me, there are African Americans out there who believe that this is a good idea, that it is a good idea to have the Ten Commandments in schools, not really understanding the full ramifications of what this is about, not understanding the slippery slope that this starts and what this creates. I don't need to have the Ten Commandments in the school in order for there to be better discipline. What I need for is the people who our taxpayers pay their salaries. We need for them to be better educators, better administrators, and certainly we need for the parents of kids to do a better job at parenting their students before sending them to school. And so that's where we are on that. Just a couple of things as well. Let me see. Hey, to Miss Nettie Music, how are you? Don't know if this is your first time, but if it is, thank you so much. Appreciate the comment, True. Thank you for joining us. If you have any other comments, please. Jay Jamin said, bingo, thank you so much for that. Appreciate all the support. Again, any comments or questions, please add them to it. I just want to talk about some really obvious things as to why dangers of believing in a God or a deity. One of the things that I mentioned at an event that I recently spoke at, yeah, good, first time, thank you, was the fact that as a self-described secular humanist, and being in the community with other non-believers, regardless of how we identify ourselves, we can be anti-theists, we can describe ourselves as secular, humanists, free thinkers, atheists, agnostics. What I am comfortable with, and what I've never seen, and what I don't think I ever see, is any of us strap a bomb to us, our bodies, and detonate that bomb in front of hundreds of thousands of people, because I believe so much in my religion, and my God and my deity. And so that is an obvious danger of religion, is that religion will make, and I used to, that the way the comment goes and the way I first heard it worded was that religion makes otherwise sane people insane, or religion makes otherwise good people do bad things. The more I think about that, the more I'm in this space, the more I do my research, the more I present, the more I talk to people. I think there's something in most of these people already. Religion is the triggering point to that, but I'm not so sure that many of these people were necessarily good people to begin with. I think clearly religion gave them something to hold on to. It gave them something to use as a reason as to why they may act out. But I'm beginning to think that some of these people who act out in the name of religion, in the name of their God or their deity, were already people on the edge, and this helps them. And the reason why I say that is because I've had so many discussions with religious people, Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, Hindu, not as much as Hindu, and certainly not Buddhist people, but the three Abrahamic religions. I've had the most conversations with those individuals. And one of the things that I hear a lot from those individuals is that without religion, there is no morals. Or where do you get your morals from if you don't believe in a God or you're not part of a religious institution? And my pushback to them is, I don't need to believe in a God or a deity to have morals. And I have to always explain to them where humanity got morals from, through evolution, understanding that we needed each other to survive in the elements is how we got morals. But what's scary is that these individuals certainly believe that without their belief system, without their belief in God, and without them saying it, without their fear of God or whatever deity that they worship, they would be out here committing heinous atrocities. They would be murdering, killing, raping people. And so that is why I believe that some of these people are not stable to begin with, right? And so they act out on these things using their religion, their belief system as a defense for that. And so that is scary. If you need the belief in a God or a deity or a religious system in order for you not to harm others, then there is something already wrong with you. I have harmed and hurt as many people as I wanted to, and that is zero. Not because of any fear of God, not because of any religion, but because of the humanity in me. I cannot stand and see another person, another human being hurt if I can at all help it, right? And so I'm certainly not going out here to hurt another human being. It is part of the humanity that is in me. It has nothing to do with the morality that I've received from some divine intervention. Some divine intervention or some religion or some deity or God. And so that is absolutely scary to think that there are people out there who will literally tell you that if it was not for my religion, if it was not for my belief in God, I believe I would be out here harming other people. And so we have to be careful of those individuals. And when we hear this, much like I do, we need to push back on that because the flip side of that is you, Mr. or Mrs. Non-believer, because you don't believe in a God or because you don't believe in the deity, because you're not part of a religious system, you are a inherently bad person. And it's just a matter of time before you do something bad if you have not already done something bad. And I certainly reject that notion. I tell people all the time, about 97% of the people in prison are believers. And it is less than 1% of the prison population that is non-believers or atheists, whatever they want to define themselves. So absolutely. So we have to be careful, and we have to push back on those individuals who believe this. Another issue, again, I'm trying to avoid the long discussion on politics, but it is almost impossible because the two are connected, right? As I've always said, westernized Christianity is the religious arm of white supremacy. What's going on, Texas? God is glad to have you. I'm glad you got to know this. And so, again, politics aside, I hate seeing one issue voters, and that one issue being religion. It is dangerous. That is another one of the dangers when your vote, okay, what side you right or left, Republican or Democrat, if you based who you vote for solely on your religious beliefs, I think that is a problem. I certainly have people in my family. There are people in my wife's family that we know for a fact that made their vote solely on the rationale that they believe that one party over the other is better for their religious beliefs. I think that is scary because what we've seen as a collective community, we've seen us, African Americans, be extremely devout to religion. And what we've also seen is that our collective social economic conditions not really get any better. Whether it's under Republican rulership or whether it's under Democratic rulership, whatever it is, we have not seen our collective social economic conditions get markedly better. And so for those of us out there who say, I'm going to vote because I believe that this party or this candidate is more in line with my religious views, and that's the only thing that matters, I think that is shameful, that is short-sighted, when there are many more issues out there that directly affect you, your people, those who look like you, and other people who may not look like you but are part of this country. that you should be also considering those issues as well before you decide. But again, those in power have realized how strong and how important and how powerful religion is in affecting the way that people think. And this is something that is historic. This goes all the way back to the very beginning when our ancestors were brought here from West and Central Africa and had the religion indoctrinated into them. They realized, because if you know the history of Christianity, especially this birth of Christianity and the enslavement of Africans, you know that here in this country, initially, white slave owners did not want to teach Africans, enslaved Africans, Christianity. Did not want to teach them how to read the Bible or what was in the Bible because they believed that it would arm them with the desire to become equal. But eventually, what they figured out is that, okay, there is also stuff in the Bible that will make them docile, make them succumb to our wishes. And all we have to do is take out or edit all the things that they can use to empower them. So we had individuals like Nat Turner, who influenced, came from his influence to try to win his freedom, and those around him actually came from some of the things that he read in the Bible. And so we had the introduction of what we know to be the slave Bible, which included all of the things that was used to make us docile and make us subservient to not only God or the images of a white God and white Jesus, but to our white slave owners. And so at that point, they decided that this would be a great opportunity for us to allow them to at least know the Bible, read the Bible, as long as it said and as it pointed to the things that we wanted it to point to. Even to the fact that on Sundays, which was the only day that the enslaved Africans did not have to work in the field, and they would have church services. The enslaved could not have a church service or have a person speaking without someone white being there present, because they wanted to make sure that the things that were said out of the Bible were the things that needed to be said to make sure that they kept our people docile. And so fast forward 300 years, and we still have the same thing. Religion, for many African Americans, has made them docile, has made them weak, has made them either consciously or subconsciously, consciously or unconsciously dependent on white in the system, dependent on something outside of them, and less dependent on them. And so that is part of it. It is, I know I'm going to get people who are going to hear this later, as I do sometimes, who would say that I am racist or I am making racist statements. What I am doing is making factual statements that can be verified if you want to just read some history. And so that's the ugly truth, as they say. And so I would not back down from that. So one issue voters, again, if it's based on your religion, if it's based on your belief in a particular God or deity, it is also a very, very dangerous thing. To go along with that is, again, white supremacy, as we've talked about. And let me get this. Let me just clear this up, because I know how this is going to come out, or how this is going to be twisted. I have by no means have I ever said all white people. What I'm talking about, those individuals who are racist and bigoted. Absolutely, yes. I have friends who are not African American. I have many friends who are not African American. I have friends who are not African American who know about this podcast. They've heard me speak. They've heard the things that I've said. I am always the same, no matter where I am, no matter who I'm with, no matter what I do. I am always the same. And so they appreciate and respect that. They might not always agree, but they appreciate it. They respect that. And they are still friends of mine, and vice versa. They might say some things that I might not agree with. If I think it's above if I think it's out there, I will certainly correct them on that. And so I just want to make sure that that's not one of those things. But what we do know, and again, what I've often said and often written about, is how the use of westernized Christianity is a tool for white supremacy. And so we've seen that, and we've discussed that. But now there is a new element or a newer element called Christian nationalism. And so this is, and I'm going to write about this. I'm actually putting together a class. I maybe put, I think it's debatable, but leaning in this direction to put together a 3 or 4 day class with one of these organizations that I'm speaking with right now, to do a class on Christian nationalism and how secularism can combat Christian nationalism. And so what we see today, more so than anything else, is white supremacy disguised as nationalism. And so that is a threat. That is some evangelicals and even more far-right individuals using Christianity as a defense for extreme behavior, right? And they code it or disguise it as being proud of their country, nationalism, putting their country first. But you got to look to see who they describe as being Americans or part of their country, and that's where you get into the whole Christian nationalism thing. And so I wanted to just touch on that. Another reason why believing in the God or deity or being part of an education, being part of a religious system is dangerous, is the education versus ignorance. In this work that I'm doing, that I have been doing for the last 10 years, and more concentrated over the last 4 years or 5 years, it's the notion that there are many people who challenge the science, who say that evolution is nothing more than an unscientific, unproven theory. But I say that, but it's taught in almost every K through 12 school, public school. It's taught at every university, every college, and it is universally accepted as the most plausible explanation for our existence: evolution, Big Bang Theory, and natural selection. And it is backed up by whatever evidence that we have now. That's why when scientists explain it, they say it is the most plausible, because science changes over time. Science change when it gets new information, unlike the Bible. And so what I find to be really interesting is that we still have grown adults who I believe got a basic education in K through 12, and even some who even got a college, a university education, who still will push the notion of creation, that creation is factual, that creation is a more plausible theory for our existence than it is evolution. And I said, based on what? And there is no basis on that. What I find oftentimes is that when we have these debates with people who are supportive of creation versus evolution, I present them the information about evolution, Big Bang, and natural selection. I cite them books that they can read, studies that they can follow. Even I tell them, go to your child's middle school or high school science book, and it's in there. They will, some of them, those who think that they're intelligent, will try to punch holes in evolution, Big Bang, and natural selection, and point out the inconsistencies or the gaps, which there are some gaps there, absolutely, and say, okay, because of this lack of science that I discovered, then this makes this theory implausible. So I said, okay, number one, even if you're successful in doing that, which you have not been, it is still the most plausible explanation. It is still not evidence for your God. And so when I ask them to present evidence for their God theory, their creation theory, there is none. And it's because he's, quote unquote, outside of what's natural. So let me get this straight. You're going to use science or the lack of science to dispute the scientific theory that is universally accepted, but you can't apply the same thing to your theory, which is creation. And so you just go on faith. So that does not make sense. And so at that point, I have to say you're not intellectually equipped to have this argument or this dialogue with me because I'm presenting the facts as we know it today, and you're still going on emotion and faith. And so that's how I win pretty much every argument debate that I have with believers because I present facts and logic, and they have none anything but emotion. And so that continues to go. But it is amazing that how these people shun education, push away from education and science because they want to remain blissfully ignorant in their belief system and the creation story and whatever else that falls up under that. And so that's where we are with that. Those are just some of the reasons why the dangers, why I believe it's dangerous for us to be believing in God and a deity. I am my mission. My mission is not to try to eradicate religion from our society. Number one, that is a tall task, and I don't think that it will ever happen because it is too ingrained in us. What I hope to do, number one, is to expose the information, bring the information forward, present, clear, so we can see it. All of us can examine it. And I also want to act as a space for those individuals who do have questions about what's going on, about their religion and their faith. And then at the extreme, my greatest accomplishment would be to be an assistant and in helping religion in this country to become largely irrelevant. And so, I talk about these things, the dangers of believing in God and the deity, with hopes that even for those individuals who are still believers, who still want to hold on to something outside of them, a God or a deity, that it would largely become irrelevant in their life. And so let me talk to you about what I mean by what is irrelevant. So in one of my presentations and part of my writings that I do, usually toward the end, at least the end of my papers, I focus on religion and belief in God becoming irrelevant. So what does that mean? That means that if I ask an individual in a conversation, an interview, survey, whatever, do you believe in God? More than likely they'll say yeah, especially African Americans, but most people in this country will say yeah, I believe in some higher power. But if I track those individuals, if I follow those individuals, if I study those individuals for a week, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, their actions won't necessarily match up with their beliefs. Meaning that more than likely they won't pray, they don't attend church, they don't read the Bible, they don't even talk about God unless someone else brings it up. They don't talk about their deity unless someone brings it up. If we can, in this community, can successfully get this country to that point, then we can do away. There's less of a danger. There's less of a danger of those individuals collectively trying to create laws and norms based on their religious beliefs. Here's why I know that that's correct and that makes sense. Many of the students who were in my classes that I taught, and many of the young people that I've spoken to, on the one hand, if you ask them, they believe in a higher power, they say absolutely yes. But then when you talk to them about, well, do you have issues with religion and a belief system? They'll say, yeah, absolutely. And I said, well, what are those belief systems? I mean, what are those issues that you have with those belief systems? Because first of all, I don't believe that everybody's going to hell. And these are students, younger people telling me this. Is even though I am a Christian, whatever the faith is, I don't believe in an eternal burning hell. So I've heard that numerous times. Secondly, I don't believe that my friend who is gay or lesbian is an abomination, right? I don't believe that my friend who is trans that's some kind of that is an abomination. They themselves might be gay or lesbian, or part of that community, or trans, and they believe that this is how I was born. This is who I am, and so I still believe, but I don't believe that what I'm doing is an abomination, and certainly don't believe that I'm going to hell. And so when you have those individuals who still believe in a higher power, God or whatever you want to call it, but but don't believe that some of their actions are an abomination according to this religion or this deity. Then you're going to have those people are going to be less likely to create laws against LGBTQ, against trans, against gay marriage, and all of the other stuff, all the other cultural stuff. And so eventually, religion just becomes something that people practice in the privacy of their home, that is not pushed upon other people, because there's those of us who are not part of the LGBT community. There are other issues that we deal with that are because of the far right or evangelicals pushing their belief systems. Like, I don't want to see the Ten Commandments in schools, right? I don't want to see Bibles in schools. I don't want us to go back to things being closed, everything being closed on a Sunday because it's supposed to be represent a holy day. Whatever it is, I think that science and stem cell research, I think we need to be able to do that. I don't believe that you should tell a woman what to do with her body when it comes to an abortion. That's between her and the father and whoever else she wants to include. So all those things, I'm not part of the LGBT community, but there are other things that affects me as a heterosexual man. I have friends who are gay who want to get married in states that they can't get married in. And if they got married, they would invite me, and I certainly would be there. And so I have friends who I want to see happy, just like I'm happy in my relationship with my wife. 19 years last week. We celebrated 19 years last week, and I want to see them happy as well in their relationships. If they want to get married, it does. I have no issue with that. It is funny because I've had an ongoing discussion, dialogue with this Muslim brother. He's an associate. I won't say he's a friend. He's an associate. He and I were part of this organization for the betterment of African American men in Atlanta before I moved. He follows me on social media. He is staunchly against anything that is LGBTQ related. And so he and I go back and forth with all these issues. And as I've said on here before, I asked him, well, why is this a problem for you? It doesn't affect me. I'm good with it. And so it's those things, because I think also, thank you, Texas Goddess. I appreciate that. What this also does is, if we allow the oppression and the suppression of, say, Group A, right, because it goes against what these sacred texts say, whatever the religion is, then it's going to be something else, and eventually it's going to be something that affects you or your loved ones or someone close to you. Remember, there are scriptures in the Bible that slave owners used to defend the enslavement of Africans, our ancestors. So if you don't think, if you're like, well, I'm not gay or whatever, I'm not part of that community, so it doesn't bother me, or if you are against that, please remember that it is not a far stretch that you will be touched some kind of way, you or someone in your family or someone close to you. And so I say that, and I always want to make sure of that. So I got about 10 minutes or maybe even less, because I have another event to get to. Are there any comments? Any other questions? Any topics that you guys would like to see me touch on or cover in the near future? Anything? As I said before, I would keep you guys abreast of events that I may be that I'm speaking at. If those events are public or recorded in any kind of way, I will certainly get that out to you. The event that I spoke last, not this past Sunday, but Sunday before last, the 2-hour presentation I did on secularism and nuns, that will be, we're gonna kind of chop that up into parts and have that posted on this channel at some point, so you can see that as well. And so we're gonna do that, but that's on that. And so anything in the future, I'll certainly let you know. If you guys, as I've always said, if you guys know of any events or organizations that's in this space that are looking for speakers, paid speakers, to come and speak about this topic, please let me know. And I certainly appreciate that. But I certainly appreciate all of you being here today, even though we started an hour earlier. I am glad to have all of you. Appreciate it. Again, hit the like button. Tell your friends. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to your friends to subscribe. Leave comments. I try to respond to all of my comments. That also helps the algorithm. Algorithm, I think. Other people are much better at that than me, understanding that, but I think that helps. At least that's what my wife tells me. So I do what she says when it comes to that. But yeah, well, thank you for joining today. I'm going to cut out a little early if there's no comments or no other questions. I'm going to give you guys back 9 minutes of your time. But I certainly appreciate all of you, NeoX, Jay Jammin, Jay Aru, certainly appreciate it. Miss Nettie, glad to have you. Please join us again. We do this every 2 weeks. Normally it's at 4 o'clock West Coast time and 7 o'clock East Coast time. And so we'll try to keep it there, but it's always on a Tuesday. Today was an exception that had to be an hour early, but thank you for making it. Texas got it, certainly appreciate it. So thank all of you, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.